Another summer has come to a close, folks, and just like last year, I'm now going to rank every movie I saw in the summer of 2025. I'd call this a summer of extremes. I saw multiple films this year that I'd consider great, which wasn't really the case last year. I think really Furiosa was the only one that was a masterpiece. But last year, I also didn't see any outright pieces of shit. And without spoiling anything, I cannot say the same for 2025. All right, let's get started with the bottom of the list, which is number 12, Jurassic World Rebirth. Sadly, not the first time this franchise has represented the nadir of blockbuster entertainment. This time, the blame can largely be laid on the fact that some genius decided to let Gareth Edwards behind the camera. Edwards is a boring, personalityless man who makes boring, personalityless movies. In his career, he has managed to make Godzilla boring, robots boring. He would have made Star Wars boring if Tony Gilroy hadn't bailed his ass out. Now he has officially made dinosaurs boring. There have been some spectacularly bad films in the Jurassic series, but none of them have been this dull. The first spoken line in the movie literally is, "All right, let's get this over with." And you can feel that whatever just put it out energy at every level. One of the most phoned in movies of the 2020s and a flat out garbage fire. Number 11, Megan 2.0. Remember when the first Megan came out and it felt like a breath of fresh air, a fun techno slasher, and a central character that through sheer force of personality seemed destined for horror icon status among Michael and Chucky? Well, Megan 2.0 is a nail in the coffin for any cultural impact this character and series had, and probably the most disappointing film of the summer. Not the worst, thanks to our buddy Gareth, but the biggest letdown. The transition from horror to action is a fine idea, but the action was lame. We don't even get a decent robot v robot fight, and that's why I paid to see this. Terminator 2, but with slasher chicks. That's a good hook. Instead, we got a plotting, generic, bargain basement spy movie that's too long and tries too hard to contrive a reason for us to care about a murderous robot. And the crazy thing is that we, the audience, already like Megan. Megan's fun, but she's not a hero. So stop trying to rewrite the character. Not that they'll get the opportunity. I really doubt a third movie is on the horizon anytime soon. Number 10 is Ballerina. We're out of the bad movies now and into the mids. Ballerina is a competent action film with that signature slick John Wick style and an impressively committed performance from Ana de Armas, but that's about it. This is the kind of thing you start 20 minutes in on TNT, and even though there's nothing too wrong with Ballerina, I get why it didn't inspire much passion among moviegoers, despite being by far the better of the two John Wick spinoffs, and frankly, I'd even put it slightly above the disappointing fourth movie in the series. There's just nowhere left for this franchise to go. Hitting the same note 5 times does not make a piece of music a symphony, and making the same action movie a bunch of times doesn't make this a cinematic universe. There's just not enough here to sustain the kind of world that Lionsgate clearly wants to build, and by now the whole thing is tapped out. Don't bother with a fifth, guys. Just let it end here. Number 9 is Elio. I kind of feel bad for this movie because, in many ways, it's exactly the kind of thing Pixar has always made, a warm, sincere portrait of childhood with a good message and an appealing animation style. And that's kind of why it's so low. Look, I'm not the target audience for this film, obviously, and yes, my daughter loved it, but I don't know, haven't we done this a few times before? This could have come out right around the time of A Bug's Life, which I'm sure is the intention, but maybe it's time we mixed it up a little. Even the non-IP Pixar films are mostly this formula, and studios aren't supposed to make the same kinds of movies forever. MGM didn't make musicals forever, and even Pixar's parent company, Disney, at least has different distinct eras of their family animated films. The 90s stuff is different than what Walt did, and the Frozen era is unlike either of those. I feel bad trashing it so much because it's not really bad. It's funny and colorful, and Brad Garrett is great in it. But like Ballerina, I get why so many people skipped it. Maybe we've just had enough of these for a while, or maybe I'm just too old for this. Who knows? Number 8, I Know What You Did Last Summer. This movie is fucking stupid, but I kind of had fun with it. Number 7, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I already reviewed this after I saw it, but while I didn't love all the choices made, and it isn't a patch on some of the standout entries in the franchise, Final Reckoning is a hell of a summer extravaganza and mostly solid close to Ethan Hunt's story. The stunts are, as always, just perfect. The Sevastopol sequence alone makes this whole movie worth watching, and Tom Cruise really does feel like the last great movie star, and watching him ride into the sunset like this, I mean, is this how audiences in 92 felt when Unforgiven came out? Don't get me wrong, I'm sure he'll keep making movies, but Ethan's journey is over, and I can't deny how momentous that feels. Final Reckoning is an imperfect film, sure, but a landmark one all the same. So long, Ethan. We're going to miss you. Number 6, Final Destination Bloodlines. Probably the biggest surprise of the summer for me. While I bear the Final Destination series no ill will, except for the fourth one, they all feel pretty interchangeable to me. This one, on the other hand, was a macabre delight, the franchise's equivalent to Gremlins 2 or Bride of Chucky. The series finally learning to laugh at itself, and that's what makes it such a blast. There's a scene that basically takes the piss out of the concept for the whole franchise, and I'll be honest, I think that's part of the reason this could work as a conclusion. It has several of the best sequences in the Final Destination series. The opening in that Space Needle restaurant is an absolute barn burner. It's got a heartfelt goodbye to the late Tony Todd, and just in general feels like a knowing parody of the whole affair before putting it to bed. I know they're already talking about making more, but there's a reason they never made any more Gremlins movies after part 2. Where do you go after you officially slide into self-parody? In any case, Bloodlines is a hilarious and entertaining love affair to a venerable series and the sleeper hit of 2025 for me. Number 5 is The Naked Gun. I was not surprised with this one, unlike Final Destination. Pretty much as soon as I heard Akiva Schaffer of Lonely Island fame was directing, I was like, oh yeah, he's got this. I mean, how else resurrect one of the great spoof franchises but get the man behind the only good theatrical spoof of the modern era? American Vandal was on streaming. Sit down. So even though it didn't shock me, Naked Gun still delivered a laugh-a-minute bit of old-school comedy that carried a lot of the spirit of the Zucker brothers while still maintaining a sense of humor all its own. Actually, a minute is kind of an understatement. There is a joke every 20 seconds in here, and the hit rate is astonishing. Liam Neeson has long been a master of the kind of deadpan humor that the Frank Drebin character is famous for, but the real show stealer here is Danny Huston. I think part of what made it so funny is that he's played this exact kind of villain in so many generic action movies unironically that seeing him goose that persona is just hilarious. Naked Gun is a good theatrical comedy, which is rare enough that I don't think I need to say anything else to recommend it. Number 4, The Fantastic Four: First Steps. That's a funny coincidence. As I said in my review, fourth time was the charm for this one. While I do prefer the other big comic book movie of the summer, which we'll get to in a sec, First Steps is still a good retro sci-fi uplifting film. The MCU's had a rough couple years, but this feels like Marvel at their best. It's a well-cast movie with a likable energy to it and plenty of feast-for-your-eyes visuals that make the whole thing really pop. The period setting is especially charming, and Matt Shakman is a solid director to take on Marvel's first family. I don't really have much else to add, but it's a good movie. So much so that it almost makes me forget that these bozos are going to direct the team's next appearance. Number 3, Weapons. Zach Cregger is a goddamn genius, period. While his last film, Barbarian, was an exemplary, contained horror movie, his follow-up Weapons is bigger, bolder, and better. A sprawling mystery that kept me on the edge of my seat, and I've heard some people describe Weapons as a horror comedy, and while I think that's an exaggeration, there's some big laughs in here for sure. And while this has been a banner year for horror in general, Weapons is the scariest movie I've seen in 2025, partially because of the excellent cinematography by Larkin Sepel, as well as one of the best new horror villains in years, whose actor I'm not going to spoil, but also the assuredness with which Cregger directs it. It feels like a mix of a 90s Stephen King novel with a small town that's really well defined and an evil that's less so, but also one of the darker Coen brothers films. If Needful Things and No Country for Old Men had a baby, you'd get Weapons. And if that doesn't sell you on it, then
I don't know what to say.
Also, best jump scare since Signs. I said what I said. Number 2, Superman.
The gun is
great.
good.
I already talked about how great it is in a vid, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And number one, 28 Years Later. I never doubted you, Danny boy. 28 Years Later is not only a film that showcases one of the best working directors operating at full strength, it's not only chapter one in what could be one of the great modern sagas of any genre, but it's also one of the most poignant explorations of grief I've ever seen. 28 Years Later is both a stylish descent into hell that intelligently weaves in deeper themes of tradition, trauma, and manhood in more ways than one,
Giggity.
and a collection of some of the best performances in the history of the horror genre. Ray Fiennes in particular gives perhaps his best acting, which is quite a feat when you look at even just his recent filmography. And after this and Nosferatu, I feel I owe Aaron Taylor Johnson an apology. I'm sorry, man, I didn't recognize your game. In the age of homogenized big-budget slop, this is a splash of color. A film that reinvigorates the tired zombie genre in a way that at least matches the earth-shattering cult hit that was the original 28 Days Later. Plus, in what other movie can you see Jack O'Connell dressed as a disgraced children's entertainer merrily slaughtering zombies to a heavy metal cover of the Teletubbies theme? I saw some good movies this summer, but 20 Years Later is a capital F film, and I cannot wait for part two. Well, I had another good summer this year. Here's hoping 2026 brings some great movies as well. This is T. Quinton 1 signing out.